Today, I'm going to talk about monitoring, reporting, and verification, which is the secret key to methane mitigation in oil and gas. There's nothing more meaningful than talking about global warming on a hot day like this. And one really exciting thing about this project is it has given me a chance to combine two disciplines, environmental engineering and computer science, which I know very little about before I started E-IPER 2 years ago. And I'd like to introduce my wonderful collaborators and mentors, Ali Malik, a PhD in computer science, Professor Alon Ta from GSB, and Professor Chris Peach from computer science. So today we're really here to answer one question. What is the key barrier to reducing global industry methane emissions? And I look around. I know you all have answers in your mind, and they're all solid. So there are many aspects in this very complicated question. And at the center is for us to understand when is the emission happening, where is it happening, how much is happening. That's why we need to measure and track the data, disseminate the information, and also to have institutes to be able to independently assess whether what you're talking about is right or not. So when we're trying to developing solutions, we're really prioritizing the quick actions. Because methane's short lifespan, it only exists for 10 to 20 years, and also because of its enormous near-term impact due to its high global warming potential. So in our techno-economic analysis, find out oil and gas is the most cost-effective and technically ready sector. 40% of the methane emissions can be addressed at no net cost. And we move on to conduct policy and existing technologies overview. And right now we're in the process of developing and assess a new MRV approach. So we cannot manage what we cannot measure. With our technology, we really hope to engage oil and gas companies to help them reduce the cost and improve efficiency in leakage detections, which would improve the data quality and help to establish a more comprehensive methane inventory. This would eventually help us to enhance the regulatory and voluntary means based on our MRV result, which eventually help us to realize our climate goal. Right now, there are great momentum around the globe. 75% is what we need to realize our global warming potential goal. And then the global society, the government, as well as the industry and corporate are taking great actions. However, the existing global initiatives, it gives some silver lining. It seems that it will be able to cut 50% of the total methane emissions. However, as we zoom in, the actionable policies backed up by details and regulations will only be able to realize 10 to 20% of what they promised they will be able to realize. So behind this huge implementation gap, there are many potential reasons, and all of them rely on high-quality MRV data. So when we are examining the current existing MRV technologies, there are two major categories. One is the top-down technology, including satellite, aircraft, and regional towers. There are lots of amazing things that's being done in this area, including the methane satellite launched by Environmental Defense Fund. So this is great. Basically, it tells us how severe the problem is. And then there's bottom-up approach. It basically tells us where the exact leakage is happening and how can we fix it based on the specific situation. So our research and our contribution mainly lies in this part. Focus on facility and site-specific measurement. So I'm really excited to introduce our ongoing research. It's to use Bayesian approach for optimal leak detection using drones and AI algorithms. We start by modeling this real-world problem with a simplified model. So for the oil and gas sites, we modeled it as an n-by-n grid. And in this case, at this stage, there is one leakage location that can be anywhere on this grid, and we don't know where it's going to be. And then we have drones loaded with infrared cameras. It can choose where it wants to fly next at whichever height it wants. As you can see here, the higher it flies, the larger the coverage would be, but the precision will be compromised and vice versa. With this natural trade-off, here comes a question. What is the optimal route for this drone to fly to make us detect the leak as quickly as possible? And we frame this as a sequential Bayesian decision-making problem. And there are 3 steps. First, the drone would choose a location to take image based on its current belief of the leakage location, which is what it believes now, and then we'll make decisions based on that. The second is, okay, it's gonna take pictures, it's gonna observe, and it will return a binary result, which is whether the area has a leakage or not. The probability of observing a leakage decreases the further away the drone is from the actual leakage. And then it comes back, update the belief. This is a whole loop of 3 steps, and we're going to repeat this t times. So when it comes to how to incorporate observations to update our belief, there are a century-long solution using Bayes rules. The major challenge is that how do we choose where to observe next? And this is where the innovation part of our technology comes from. And the efficiency has to do with how large the t has to be, basically how many times you have to loop over. So we compared and explored many different strategies. First is the baseline approach. That is how this has been done today. Basically, we have people walking around, having handheld equipment, walk across the grid from the top left until they find the leakage. And we can see the color bar shows the current belief. Purple means there is low probability of leakage. Yellow means there is high probability. And the white cell indicates the camera on the drone, the area it's taken. The reason why the size is not changing here is because it's human walking. You're not suddenly growing taller, so the coverage remains the same. And our second strategy is using random strategy. Basically, you pick a random location at a random height. This doesn't require a current belief either. And we will see it's doing much better. But the problem is that even after the belief is relatively clear, we can see there's like pretty clear yellow spot here. It doesn't zone in on a location, just keep wandering around. It doesn't stop. I mean, it stops eventually, but it takes a while. The third strategy is greedy, meaning that we'll pick a location with the highest current belief of the leak location. And you can see basically it's chasing the brightest spot here, meaning that going to the place with the highest probability. And it's even better, it converges quicker and focus on the leakage. But the problem is that it might get stuck if the prior belief is wrong. And finally, it comes to our focused strategy, which is Thompson sampling. This is a simple but highly performant algorithm from reinforcement learning. Basically, how Netflix decide what movies to recommend to you is very similar to this. And then we can see it's doing a pretty good job. It's done as we talk. So it perfectly balanced the exploration when belief is uncertain and exploitation when the belief is certain. So here is an overview of all the 4 strategies we talk about. As you can see, Thompson sampling is doing really great. And after we run these thousands and hundreds of times, we will find that the error between the model's belief and the actual leakage for Thompson sampling, which is the green line, it managed to reduce the error to a relatively low level within a much shorter time. So moving forward, I think there are several steps we'll like to continue to do. First is to optimize our observation model, accounting into wind, multiple leakages at one time, and also to test our model into simulators backed up by real data. Professor Adam Brandt and other researchers in his team are working on this. And then to integrate this into the overall MRV framework with both aggregate data and site-specific data. And then I want to thank you, E-IPER community and teaching team, to give us this platform to present our work. And then, open to questions and feedback. Also, welcome compliments if you just want to say this is great.
Hi, this is really cool. The Thompson sampling seems really effective. Could you explain a little how it works?
Oh, yeah. So for Thompson sampling, the basic idea is the probability for the drone to go to that location is proportional to how likely the belief that how likely the leakage is going to be there. Give you a very quick example. You have 2 spots, here and here. 40% the leakage gonna be here, 60% leakage gonna be here. So the drone has 40% chance to go there and 60% chance to go here. The difference between Thompson sampling and greedy is that greedy see, oh, you have 60% of leakage. I will only go to the 60%. So it's very certain where its next step gonna go. Thank you for bringing up this very important question. And Yatal.
So this technology is super interesting and seems to have really important applications specifically for oil and gas. Do you have plans to commercialize this or to work with oil and gas firms or with regulators? Like, how does this get into the field?
I appreciate your trust in this technology, and eventually that is the plan. So I think this is a simplified model. Our next step is obviously to elaborate on this model to make it way closer to what the real situation gonna be. And I think there are already enough cases in the industry for them to integrate these kind of new detection approaches into their daily operation. So I think once we test these models into the simulator, improve it, optimize it, and also collaborate with the industry practitioners, see like, what do you need? Is it helpful? And then if we commercialize, we'll go find you. We'll go work with our GSP peers to make it happen.
Amazing presentation. Thank you so much. Is drones the way that these leaks are usually found these days in oil and gas companies, and they're just kind of like trying to find it randomly, or what's the current practices?
Great question. I think oil and gas should all ask themselves this question because they're not doing a very great job at these days. So as we mentioned about top-down level is the satellite image. They can see very clearly that what the concentration in a given area is. But for oil and gas, usually the methods rely on themselves to report how many emissions you have. And then it's very unclear how it's being carried on the ground. But drone is a very common and becoming more and more trendy to get adopted to use to detect the leakage. Currently, I think most common is you have two people walk around or drive around, hand holding infrared camera to detect where it is. It is necessary when, if it's just this room size, you want to see like which pump is leaking. But if it's like the whole campus size, I think drone would help improve the efficiency of that. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. I had a question. So Thomson sampling seems very interesting. One of the key components for this seems to be the belief metric, right? So I'm curious how you think about, how is that metric quantified, and is there more we can do to get increased accuracy on that, because that might further improve the effectiveness of Thomson sampling?
Yes, I'm glad you asked this question. So as we can notice, both the greedy method and Thomson sampling, their efficiency is based on prior belief or our current belief that further emphasizes the importance of MRV. The more data-driven information we have, the more that we can tell, what are the potential areas we can go to, or what should be our priority when resources and time is limited. So I think this is a recursion. It's like the better we are at collecting the data, the better kind of data we're going to have. So I think this is a really important area. We should all be aware the importance of having high quality data on methane leakage detections.
It seems to me that there's really three levels of this. One is what technology you're using. You're using drones or airplanes versus on the ground, and the benefits and the cost of doing that. The second is, if you use drones, how do you choose an optimization search algorithm? And the third is, what are the policy interventions that you would like to have in order to motivate the companies to do whatever you think is the most beneficial? You talked about the algorithm itself.
Yeah.
Have you done all of the others, and will that be all part of the report, doing evaluation of the benefits and costs and effectiveness of the three different things?
Yes, I think I spent, because we only have 9 minutes, but I think I touched upon it on the theory of change. So stay tuned for the return report. I think I did some analysis on that. The key is that we need to have data to empower the policymaker to improve their implementation capacity. So for example, if we were to establish a carbon credit, we need to know how much money we should reward them for reducing what amount of methane leakages. So with this, we'll be able to quantify that. So that helps to establish the regulatory, whether you want to enforce it or the voluntary market. That's the goal. Yeah.
But the point is, you will write this up in the report itself, all 3 levels.
Yes, I will and I have, and if I haven't, I will add it.